I've often wondered if I can use my Google Drive as my cloud storage. I use Google Drive a lot. Use it to store my files, store my videos, store my script, and do a couple of things. Why not using it as a cloud storage? If I can store my files in S3 buckets, I can store my files in ADLS. How is it different from Google Drive? Of course, I wouldn't want to go into the technical differences, which is not really relevant for this. The point is, it's possible to use your Google Drive as your cloud storage, and I'm going to be doing just that in this video. In this video, I'm going to be setting up an environment. You can do that within any environment of your choice. You can do it within BigQuery. You can do that in VS Code by just writing a Python script. You can even do it in Snowflake, but I'm going to be doing it in Databricks. And what I'm going to be doing is to upload a set of file into my Google Drive, and I'm going to be making a connection to that with my script, and I'm going to be reading that file and saving it into Databricks file storage system. And like I said, you can choose any platform you want to use it for. But just a matter of preference, I've decided to do it with Databricks. You know what? Enough of talking. Let's get right into it. And the first place we're going to start, we're going to be starting on the side of Google. And when we sort everything out within the Google console, we're going to go to Databricks. And I'm going to be opening this. If your Google account is not signed up within the Google Cloud environment, that is fine because that is where I'm going to be starting from in this video. You could create a Google account if you don't have one, and we are going to be using that for our console. Here it tells me, welcome, my country is United Kingdom. I'm going to agree to this, and I'm just going to agree and continue. After that, it tells me that I could get 300 credit, free credit, for 90 days to try out Google Cloud. You don't need to have any credit to be able to do what we want to do today. You could go ahead and create a new project. I'm not going to be starting this now. Let me just create a project to show you, and let's create a new project. This project, I'm going to give it a name, and really just call it my project. That's a default name, and no organization I'm just going to create. You need a project to be able to do this. The project gives you access to your own environment you're going to be working with. And I'm going to select my project. Commit to the project, you see all of these resources, and that is not what we're looking for. I'm looking for the Google Drive API. Going to search for that. Google Drive API. I'm going to enable this API. My API is enabled. I'm going to come down to credentials because I'm going to be creating my authentication. And it tells me to create my Auth 2.0 client ID. I'm going to click on create credential. I'm going to choose my Auth client ID. Here it tells me I cannot create this until I'm able to configure my consent screen. I'm going to go to configure consent screen. If you have consent screen already configured, you don't need to worry about this. Click on get started. On the app name, I use Databricks Auth client. The email, I'm going to be using my email, theddatasignal@gmail.com. I'm going to go to next. My audience is going to be external. I go to next, and it asks for my contact information. This is how they notify me about changes. I'm going to use the ddatasignal@gmail.com. I go to next. It tells me finish. I continue, and that is done. I'm going to click on create. Now I can create my Auth client. App type, you can choose web application or you can choose desktop app. I'm going to be going for the desktop app, and I could just leave it as the default name, desktop client, or I could take this out and just call it desktop client. I click on create. Before I create, it tells me that it's going to take about 5 minutes or to a few hours for settings to take effect. I'm going to click on create. It gives me my client ID, my client secret, creation date, and a couple of things. I'm just going to download it as my JSON because when we come to Databricks, we're going to be uploading this into Databricks file system. So let me have this downloaded. Great. And it tells me that my desktop client has been created. So here I am in Databricks. If you don't have a Databricks account, you can simply create one. Mind you, if you're using the latest version of Databricks, you're going to be having a different interface from what I have here. Mine is still the old. I've not upgraded to having Unity Catalog and a couple of other new features. And that is the reason I'm using Databricks file system, because I don't have Unity Catalog enabled here. I'm going to go straight to the compute layer. If you don't have a compute setup, please try to set one up. I've created a compute I'm going to be using for this, and I'm going to start my compute. And to create a compute is very simple. Just click on create compute and you can create a personal compute, and that should suffice for what we are going to do. And I'm going to come to my catalog. Within my catalog, I'm going to go to browse DBFS. If you're using the newer version of Databricks, you're going to be having the Unity catalog here, and it's going to be quite different from what I have. And let me go to my DBFS. Within my DBFS, I've got a couple of folders. I'm going to be using the file store. I'll come to YouTube, and within YouTube, I'm going to be creating another folder. And my folder, I'm going to call it user forms. That is because the sample data we're going to be using is essentially user forms. So within this place, I'm going to be uploading all of my authentication credentials. I'll click on upload and I'm going to browse. Yeah, within my download, I have it here, and I'm just going to open this. It tells me it's done. I click on done, and I have my authentication here. And this is my Google Drive. Within Google Drive, this is the single file we're going to be using. Essentially, I want to read this file into Databricks. And this is a demo, and when you go live in this, you can do something much more complicated. You can have folder structures, you can have it within different folder layers, and you can have much more files that you want to read as much as you want. Opening this file is just a user form. It's not much, and about 10 rows of data, and the data is not all that perfect, but it's just for demo. And to create a notebook is pretty much easy. You just come to your workspace and you click on create, and we are going to be creating a notebook we'll be using for this. And I can give it any name I want. I can just call it I call it Databricks Google Drive integration, or whatever name you want to give yours. First things first, I'm going to be installing a couple of packages we'll be using. The first one is the gdrive, and I'm just going to be typing that. And I have it. Before I run this, I'm going to be attaching my cluster that I have created. My cluster is live and running, and I'm going to use that cluster to run this. I seem to have a typo here. Yeah, accept and run. Great, I have all of this installed. Next thing, I'm going to be doing my authentication, which is very important because you need to authenticate the access using the auth authentication we've already created. And I'm going to be bringing in my gdrive. So I need to get a path for my config file. I'm going to come to my catalog to locate where I have that. Browse DBFS, and this is where I have it under user form. I'm just going to click on this, and I'm going to be copying path. Copy this path. I come back here, and I'm going to paste it here. So what this is going to do, this is going to open a link to the authentication manually, and it's going to tell me to authenticate manually from here. So let me try to run this. And it gives me this page to click on it and do the authentication and get the verification code, which I'm going to be imputing into this place. And I'm going to click on this. It asks me for my email, which I have put here, and I'm going to click on next. And it's going to ask for my password. I impute my password, and I'm going to be logging in, go to next. And of course, because I have my two-step verification in place, is going to ask me for that from Google Authenticator. I impute that and go to next. And it gives me this error telling me that Databricks client has not completed authentication yet. To fix this, we're going to go back to our Google console. When I come to this place, I go to audience. And within audience, my authentication is set to external. And because it's not published yet, it's still in testing, I'm going to be adding myself as a user. If I add my email address as the user here, and it's the data signal, gmail.com, I'm going to click on save. Having this set up, this should now work. So let's go back to Databricks. I'm going to close this and let's run this again. It brings it up and tells me to go here, and I'm going to authenticate with my account. And I'm just going to go to continue. It gives me all of this. I say continue. And it tells me this is my authorization code. I'm just going to copy it and paste in the slots that I have here. And I'm just going to paste. After that, I click on enter. It tells me that my authentication is successful. Good. So what we do next is to save our file into our Databricks file system. And I'm going to say file ID. How do we get our file ID? When I come back to my Google Drive, I'm going to share this. Click on share, and you'll put this on anyone with the link can see this. I copy the link, I click on done, and I'm going to go back to Databricks. Here, I'm going to create a new cell, so I'm going to paste this. And all of this is my file ID. Click on copy. I paste my file ID, and I can have this deleted. I'm going to say file is equal to drive dot create file, get content file, and the path is going to be a path of my choosing. And for the path, I'm going to be using this path here. From here, I'm going to use up to user form, and this is the path I want to use. Get my file. I'm going to call this userforms.csv, and that'll be the name of the file I'm going to be downloading. And afterwards, I want to read this file from this path, and I'm going to say spark read CSV, and this is the path I want to read from. And I'm going to close this. Let me separate this out to this place and just focus on this one here. Yeah. And we've got the ID, we've got the file ID, which already have at the top. We'll get our function, get the content file, and it gets it from this place. This should be fine when I run it. I've got this error here. Yeah, I needed to put a semicolon. Let's accept and run. Okay, this looks messed up in as much as it has rendered this, and I'm just going to fix this, and I'm going to set the header to true, and also infer schema as well. I'm going to say header true and infer schema. Now let's read this. This looks much better. Like I told you before, this is just a sample file. I know the file is not clean. It has a lot of null rows, and that is fine. This is just to do the initial bit. So guys, this is essentially how you can read this, and this is my file that I have in my Google Drive. If you come to the Google Drive, it's the same file, and I've been able to read it from Databricks. Like I said before, you can do this from any environment you choose. Despite this does not look so perfect for a production environment, because it makes more sense I'm able to write a function that I can use, always reuse, and just have a few parameters I can tweak for a production ready environment. So I have this function I've written. The function is going to be collecting a couple of arguments and parameters to be able to give us the results. And just to make it production ready. And to make it much more production ready, you wouldn't be using the personal account detail like the Gmail account that we're using is quite restrictive. For a production ready environment, you would want to use a service account. Set up a service account within your Google console, and you can use that and have a much more seamless connection with this. And you don't need to re-authenticate anytime you're running it. I'm going to upload this function in a GitHub repo. I'll make it available in the comment section. What this function is collecting basically is collecting the client secret path, collecting the file ID, collecting the destination path, and I have this optional argument here. The reason for this is because the way you would read a Google Sheet or a PDF that you have within your Google Drive is different from the way you would read a normal file, like a TXT file or a CSV file. And the reason for this is if for any reason I want to override the default reading of TXT file, maybe I want to read Google Sheets, I can use this and just tweak it. So go through this, you can tweak it however way you want. And also making here, putting another condition if I don't have the path already created, it should just create a path for me and be able to go from there. Okay, how do I call this function to be able to use it? I'm going to call the file similar way. Just call my function, download from Google Drive, auth, my client ID, my client secret path. So go to this. I'm going to provide it shortly. And I have my client secret path. The next one is my file ID, have my file ID, have my destination path, which is this. And afterwards, I'm going to be reading the file. So we're going to Spark display this, and that should work. Okay. Oh, I've not run this yet. So I'm going to be running my function. And when I'm done running my function, I'm going to run this. Ask me for authentication. I go to authenticate this, continue, copy this, and come back here. I paste it. Authentication successful, and I'm able to read my file. Yeah, so that is it. You can use this function and tweak it however way you want and for what fits your purpose. And this essentially is how you can use Google Drive as a cloud storage, and you're able to read out within Databricks. Whoa, that was a long one. Thanks for watching up to this point. If you've watched up to this point, it means you found the video useful. Why don't you like, subscribe, and share with others so they can have access to this and to also support the channel. And thank you for watching through. I'm going to be seeing the next one. Bye for now.